Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here of KW Bonsai. We've got a beautiful day today in the greenhouse and we're going to be working on our Norway maple. This tree just grew in the front garden all by itself. It's about probably 12 years old now. It's been repotted. It was dug up from the garden, had a fairly horrible root system. It's been repotted 3 times now. I repotted it last spring as a club demo, and we're going to repot it again this spring. The tree has never really been styled too seriously. There's never been a front picked for the tree or anything. So we're going to do a little detail work on it. There's a lot of buds on it that are coming out that we're going to pinch off the ones we don't want, and that kind of thing. So let's get to it. The first thing we want to do is pick our front for the tree. And this has always been the selected front. So I'm just going to check the tree out and make sure, there's not some better angles. This front does have, well, the whole tree has a lot of scarring where it's been kind of clip and grow in the garden over the years. It'll always kind of stay there, but as the tree grows, all these lumps and that will start to smooth out. And it's already been doing that. I mean, at first it was very horrible. And you can see, this scar's healed over. There's one, where was it now? Right here. That's just healed over completely and smoothed right in. And it'll continue to do that as it grows. All the scars will become less noticeable and they'll start blending in. The bulges, as the tree grows and gains thickness, the live veins kind of flow around the bulges, and again they start to blend in more. So yeah, it's kind of an ugly tree right now, but it'll gain beauty as it gets older. So for a front for this tree, we've got this great big coarse branch that grew last year, and obviously this section's too thick, it's too straight, so we're gonna have to cut that down. There are little buds here and one on the inside here, so if we cut this right off, we'll get a new shoot growing out here, which would be good. This branch is pretty good. We want to grow an upright type branch, and we've got some horizontal branching also, which is good. We've got a branch here, which is nice, and if this is our front here, this branch is towards the back, which will give a bit of depth to the tree. And we've got 2 trunks coming off the top, so we're dividing from 1 into 2. Now, it doesn't look very good yet, but someday. Yeah, so I'm just going to look for a front for the tree. I'm going to mark some provisional fronts. So there's the front I was looking at, which isn't too bad. Now I'll get some markers and we'll tag the different fronts. I've picked 3 provisional fronts, or 3 fronts that are possibilities. So here's the first one. Looking in here, I like this is kind of a back branch. It gives some bit of depth. Once this is reduced, we can make that a good upright trunk. And you can see the one back here, which also gives it some depth. The roots, from that angle, we have kind of a root that comes out towards you, which isn't great. So there is that problem. If we go to our next front here, we've got kind of a knee of the trunk that comes out, so it kind of sticks out in your face. You can see it from the side view, it kind of curls around. I don't like that. I don't like looking up the trunk line and having this kind of bend here coming at you, so I don't really like that one. I'm going to take that one out because I just don't like that. Yeah, so then it leaves us with the last choice, which is here, and I like the roots in this view, this front view. I like the way the trunk goes away from you and then kind of bends towards you, then away from you and back towards you. I don't like the fact that the two main leaders are going away from you, but that can be corrected. Yeah, so, and once this branch is fixed, we cut it down and get some movement, I think it'll be quite a nice front view. So this is my choice of the front view, which is looking in at this angle. So I'm going to take the other marker out, and that's going to be our front view. So I kind of hope you guys like it too. I'll just rotate the tree around. This front view could change over the years, but for now I think we'll pick that as our front view, which is the corner right here. That's it. So let's go on to doing a bit of styling. So typical with this maple is that it gets little buds that pop out all over the trunk every year. So we have to remove the ones we don't want. So like this one, we'll just remove it. There's another one here. Remove it. There's one down lower here. I'm going to remove that. Another one here. So if you do see a bud that's in a place that you want to branch, that's good. You can develop that out as a branch. But the ones I'm removing now are ones that I don't want as branches. So otherwise they grow out and create more of these bulges in the trunk. Just cleaning up some old scabs. Yeah, so you can just rub them off with your finger, or pick them off. So this branch, we do want to develop it. We have our main branch coming upwards, which is good. It has one bud at the back here, and the bud on the front is missing. It died off, so we just have one bud there. We've got two buds on the end here and a third bud here. So I'm going to let them all develop. Normally I would prune off this bud here, but I want to just check what happens with this branch first. If I were to take that bud off and then this branch died off or something, I'd be out of luck for an upright kind of trunk coming off or branch coming off of here. So I'm keeping it as a safety. We can always prune that off later. So this branch here, it's a rapidly grown branch. It got a lot of vigor last year and it just shot out. And obviously it's too straight, and yeah, it doesn't look miniature at all. It looks like a rapidly grown branch. So we do have our two little buds, one here and one on the back, that we're going to keep. So we're just going to prune off the branch roughly to here for now and develop those two buds. We're going to remove some buds down lower here that we don't want. Yeah, so that's all for that branch. There's some buds down low here too that we want to pick off. We don't want to develop branches here. We're keeping our main trunk branch free for now. That big branch we just cut off, I got some sap coming out of the cut, which means the sap's flowing. I can see it on top here. You can make maple syrup out of that if you wanted. We've got most of our trunk cleaned up. We do have some buds here that I'm going to pinch off, that we don't want branches growing there. And we're going to tackle the apex. We have some buds here and one back here. So we could cut that entirely off, but I think I'm going to keep it. We've got some thick buds up here and some smaller buds down here. So I'm just going to prune above these smaller buds. like that. And again, I'm leaving, you know, some room for dieback on that branch. So you don't want to cut right down close to your buds, just in case it dries out and kills those buds off. So, and on this tree, on this trunk, which will become a trunk someday, we've got a couple of buds here and then some larger buds up top. So again, we're just going to take the top off like that. Our one branch here, we're going to do the same thing. We've got a big thick terminal bud up here, so we're just going to take that off and maybe prune it down even a little further there. And then we've got a few suckers growing in at the base of this branch that we're going to remove, and one in here. There we go. Yeah, so we don't want any, we've got a branch here, we don't want more branches coming off at the same point that this branch is. Okay, I think we're ready for repotting. So let's get the tree out of the pot. Again, this tree was repotted last year. It was potted in really good soil. You can see the soil is still nice and crumbly. Maples do grow roots very quickly. Any of the maple trees will grow an enormous root system within a year, you know, providing the top is nice and healthy. So let's see what it's like. Let's get it out of the pot. Got a nice brick of roots. There's parts of our pot falling apart here. Oh dear. And let's get our, yeah, so we've got a nice mat of roots. I'm going to take the pot away, what's left of it. Oh dear. And we'll start raking out our roots. As you can see, they've grown everywhere in the soil. That's good. It was repotted last year at a club demo, this tree, as part of repotting maples. And I took it back very hard. As I say, this tree was from the garden originally, so we're still working on refining our surface roots. You know, getting rid of all our ones that don't look good if they're too thick or going in the wrong direction. So yeah, so it was, the roots were cut back quite hard last year. And as you can see, in 1 year, in this large pot, it does need repotting. I mean, it could go for 1 more year in this pot, but I think it would be tough to water. There'd be so much root mass that the water would just run off the top. And I think the health of the tree would start to suffer. I think you would just start to see, you know, problems start developing, that it'd be almost impossible to water. We have a little bit of the dreaded Irish moss in here, or Scottish moss, or terrible stuff. Gets in there and forms these deep roots. So we definitely have to get those out when we repot. They're nasty things to have in your trees. They look nice. It's nice looking moss, but flowers and everything, but it's got huge deep roots that penetrate into the soil and make watering really, really hard. These roots have come a long way since it was dug up from the garden, but they still have a long way to go. So I've combed out the top, and I'm going to flip the tree over and start on the bottom now. Here's some drainage screens. Take that away. So again, we'll start in the middle of the tree and comb out towards the outside edges. Yeah, you can see the soil is nice and loose. This is really good soil. Nice and lots of air in it, lots of water. And the tree's grown really well in it. Give it a shake. So our roots, we're looking for flat on the bottom and tapering from the trunk into the soil on the top. Just getting all the tangles out of the roots. I like to be able to run my root rake through all the roots. If they get too congested and tangled, you can't run your root rake through it. It gets hard to get soil in there. It's hard to water it. So you want to keep your roots managed. Especially on a maple, they'll start fusing together and making a plate of roots on the top that's very difficult to get water, especially if you'll just run off to the edges, which is okay, but it's nice to keep your roots separate, I think. Okay, I'm going to clean this soil away and we'll wash the roots and see what we've got. I've washed the roots and I'm just combing them out again. I can see some long roots already. And you'll notice I'm not combing the roots out on the glass surface, which makes that horrible squeaking noise. So I'm trying to do it on the wooden base. Yeah, so we've kind of got them roughly combed out. We still have to do a lot of work. So let's look at the roots now. First thing I notice is we're a little sparser on this side and a little more congested on this side. We have some roots that are coming up a little high. They're in sort of higher than our root plane. With roots, you know, you have the soil level and then you have a plane where all the roots originate from. You don't want, you know, roots coming up here and down into the soil. You want sort of one level where all the roots are coming out, or one plane. So we want to get rid of some of these roots that are too high, like this one. We'll just prune it off flush and get it out of there, like that. It will create a slight scar here, but it'll heal over eventually and you won't even see it. We've got some roots sticking up here that I'm going to remove. I think it was one that was pruned long ago. A bit of moss here. So now, some of these roots, like this one, it's quite long. It does have some dividing. It's got a root over here. So we want to divide our one root into two. So we have a root over here that we're going to keep, and we're going to cut this long one off shorter. And we're going to keep our cuts parallel to the bottom of the root plane. So horizontal cuts, like that. Then I'm going to get rid of this part of the root. There we go. And we'll grow new roots from this side, so we'll have our one root dividing into two. And it divides fairly close to the trunk, which is nice. It gives a nice scale, miniature look to the roots. If you have a long root dividing way out here, it just doesn't look right. In nature, the roots divide very quickly from 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8. So we're trying to keep our roots compact. Here's another one, a root that single root growing out. Just trying to untangle it. I hear the ducks outside. Yeah, it's there we go, it's untangled. So we have some, you know, some division, but it's all way out too far. So again, we're gonna prune that root off closer to the trunk. And we don't want to prune them all at the exact same point, so I'm going to prune this one back even closer, about there. When you prune the roots off close to the trunk like this, you have to make sure when you repot it that they're in the soil. You can't expose your lovely root base if the roots you want to grow, you know, new roots at the ends, if they're sticking above the soil, they'll just die off. So you've got to make sure those are in the soil. We got two nice ones here, and I think that'll develop quite nicely, so we'll get rid of everything else. So you can see it's going a nice direction now. I'm going to have to go in and trim the end off this root. Get in here. There we go. There. So we've kind of redirected that root. It was going, you know, off in a crooked direction, and now it's going more in a radial pattern. Let's prune off some of these long ones. Yeah, so I think that root's not bad. We still have a lot of correcting. As I said, we've got this crossing root here that I'm going to untangle some other roots first. And then we got to find the base. Let's fix that root. So I'm going to cut it off quite short here. And then we're going to get rid of it. The end I cut off if I can. There. And hopefully we'll get, well, we will get a new root growing in a better direction. I'm going to cut it off even shorter. Right back almost to the trunk. That way we'll get a root that's growing in a better direction. Yeah. So we've kind of fixed up a lot of our surface roots. So the next thing we want to do is go underneath the tree and check out what's going on there. So the first thing we can do is we can get rid of all these roots growing down. We want to keep our root ball flat on the bottom. So all these roots that are growing down, where's my other scissors here? We can get rid of all those. And we need the root rake and get some more soil out of here. Always combing, especially on these maples. You want to keep the roots sorted out. Like if I'd let this go for one more year, it would have been a disaster the next year I had to repot it. It would have been a mat of roots so dense that it would have taken me a long time and a lot of work to get the roots back in order. Oops. Hard enough letting them go 1 year. Now, let's Slowly getting there. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to give it a trim around the edges. So all our long roots we're going to trim off. And the shorter roots that haven't reached the edge out here will be untouched, so they'll kind of equalize in vigor with these longer ones. So basically the more vigorous roots get cut off, and the roots that are less vigorous stay with the tree untouched. So it balances out the root system. How far back do you go with the roots? You take the root mass on a maple back to the point where you start to cringe. You go, oh, is it going to live? And the answer is usually yes, they will live. Maples can have quite a severe root pruning and still be fine. Now, there is a purpose to cutting back these roots, and it's an aesthetic reason. Hold on, that root's thick. So, if you had a large root mass in this maple in spring, your shoots that come out are just going to explode, and you're going to get those great big long shoots with long internodes, which is what you don't want. So by cutting the root mass back in spring, you're taking a lot of vigor out of the tree. So in spring, when the buds start coming out, it's going to have less energy, the tree. It's just got less roots, less energy. So you're going to get smaller internodes. The growth is going to be weaker. It's going to keep the tree compact. Then as the summer grows, the roots start growing again, and throughout the summer you get nice even growth. So it maintains your tree, compact internodes and nice branching. You don't get those long wild shoots in spring that stick out 4 or 5 inches without a pair of buds. So it's important in spring to prune your roots back quite far, and it'll keep your tree in check and miniature. I'm just combing again. There's a spot I don't like here. I'm not able to run my comb through it, and we got to see what's going on. I think we've got a lot of roots, larger ones. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna have to fix that area. I'm thinking even of removing these top roots. We do have ones below that are more in check with the root plane. So I'd either have to remove these lower ones and develop these, or keep the lower ones and get rid of the upper ones. And I think I'm getting rid of these upper ones. They're kind of a little high out of the root plane. They're not bad, but either way would work. I'm going to get rid of the upper ones. Now, let's see what's going on here. We have a lot of roots in this area. Some nice roots there. Let's try and clean up these ones a bit more. A little better. I'm going to do some sorting here. All the chickens are out making noise. Yeah, there's a root here. There's a root here that curls around that we can cut off shorter. Keep it going in a good direction. Boy, lots of noise in the barnyard today. Lots of noise in the old barnyard. That's okay. They've been stuck inside all winter. It's good to get them out and pecking around. There's a root here that's going a bad direction, a fairly thick one. If you can see that there. We got to get rid of that. Alright, so we're ready to plant our tree now. The card on my camera filled and the camera turned off while I was talking about the roots. So, sorry we missed the last bit of the roots, but basically what I did is I trimmed my root plane flat underneath. You know, any roots growing straight down get trimmed off. And we finished sorting out all our surface roots and we trimmed it nice and tight to the trunk of the tree. So, as I said, with a maple, you want to take the roots back far enough where you start to cringe, where you go, "Ugh, is it going to live?" And yeah, it usually does. So that's what we've done. I hope someone out there says, "Oh, you took the roots back too far." And no, we didn't. This is about where you want to take a maple. So the next stop is we're going to plant the tree. This is the front of our pot. The back is cracked here. So we got to find the front of our tree again, which was about here. Looking in on that kind of scar, so somewhere about there. And I'm going to turn it towards me so I see exactly what I'm doing. And we're going to plant it fairly deeply in the pot. We've got all these nice surface roots going and we don't want them to die. So we want the tree low enough in the pot that all the beautiful surface roots are covered up. All you'll see is a little flare from the trunk, that's about it. So we still got to go a little lower. Someday we'll expose these nice roots. But for now, they're just hidden treasures, I guess you'd call them. They're down there. We know they're down there. No one else will. Still got to come a little lower here. Yeah, that's looking like a good level. Okay, so it's in the pot nicely. Let's start filling in our soil. Cover up our roots. Now, by doing this type of root pruning where we get our flat layer on the bottom, you start to get quite a thick flare at the base of the tree, which will give it a nice mature look. Now that can kind of be overdone with some trees. You get this really exaggerated taper, which I'm not a fan of. I like my trees to look somewhat close to a natural tree you'd see in nature. And again, before we get too much soil in here, we're going to start working it in. Get out any air pockets, which you don't get a lot with a flat root base like this. You know, their roots kind of, they're in a flat plane, they kind of contact the soil nice below. And when you put the soil on top, it kind of contacts the top of it. So yeah, it doesn't take a lot of time to get the soil settled in around the roots. Norway maples are, you know, some people say you shouldn't be wasting your time on a Norway maple, but they're excellent trees for beginners. You can learn all the techniques that you would use on a Japanese maple, and you can get the tree for free. I mean, there's no shortage of Norway maple keys and seedlings around, and at least here anyway, they're growing in the gutters of the house, and yeah, there's just, you know, Norway maple seedlings everywhere. So yeah, you can get the trees for free. You can develop all your bonsai skills using free trees. If they die, it's, you know, not a great loss. They're not the ideal tree for bonsai, that's for sure. They have large leaves, but we can still make a nice tree out of it. So I'm going to start filling it in with soil again. We've, you know, the tree's nice and firm in there. So we'll keep filling our soil in all around, cover up all those nice roots. It's getting there. Just level it off. Again, we want the soil level just below the lip of the pot. Makes watering easy, so it doesn't run off over the edges of your pot. I think we've got it at about the right height. All our roots are buried, which is good. Ah, looking good. Okay, so there's the front of our tree. I'm going to answer the question. A lot of people ask me, why don't I wire my trees into the pot? You know, run some wires around the roots, holds the tree in the pot in case something bad happens. I'll try and answer that. When I'm potting the tree, I like to feel the wiggle. See, right now it's really firm in there, which means that all the roots are surrounded by soil. The tree's stable in the pot. You can do that with wire too. You can, you know, get your tree stable before you wrap the wires around the roots. But I also like to feel, as the roots start growing, it starts firming up even more, and I like to be able to feel that. So wiring your tree into the pot, when you run the wire across the roots, you can get some nasty wire marks in the roots. And I've seen a lot of really old, really nice Japanese maples that have ugly wire marks across the root base. And it'll take years and years for those roots, or those scars, to go away from the wires. So I don't like that. I don't like, you know, the chance of getting wire marks across my surface roots. I like to place stones on the surface. It keeps the tree nice and stable in the pot until it grows, you know, its roots out so it becomes one with the pot. It's a personal preference. It does, I mean, you can have a squirrel or something come and dig your tree out of the pot, and you might find it lying on the ground one day. I haven't had that happen yet. If it does, I'll probably start wiring my trees into the pot, maybe. But so far, I just like placing rocks on top and letting the tree grow, and then when it's ready, I take the rocks away and the tree's good. So that's the reason I don't wire my trees into the pot. It's I just like to be able to feel the amount of movement I get in the trees, and I can tell when the tree's starting to grow. And I've never had a problem with trees coming out of the pots or blowing over in the wind or anything like that. With the rocks around the surface, it's held in there really nicely. As firm as wire, I would say. So let's water the tree as the next step. Okay, so here we go. Soil's draining really, really nicely. No pooling of water on the surface or anything like that. Wash our tree down. And that's that. Running out the drainage holes nice and clear. That's all the work we'll be doing on our Norway maple. We've got it repotted. We've got it pruned up, ready to grow in spring. I hope you'll stick with me as we follow this tree over the next few years and see if we can turn it into a nice looking bonsai. So Nigel Saunders of KW Bonsai. We'll see you next time.